item which we're splitting into two sections. So we've got in the agenda there are four kind of key questions that we want to look at around care in our community. So it's how we're delivering on the care home improvement strategy, how we're delivering on the ethical care charter, our approach to home care, and what we should be doing to support care in the community. And we've brought this review forward because there are a lot of development going on at the moment in Southwark around our care homes specifically. So if we take the CCG and the council first, and kind of talk to you guys, and then we'll move on to the CQC and lay inspectors. And I know, Tom, you have some points that you want to make then as well. So if you could all just introduce yourselves.
Yeah, go for it. I'm Gwen Kennedy. I'm the Director of Quality and Safety for Southwark Clinical Commissioning Group.
I'm Councillor Stephanie Cryan. I'm Cabinet Member for Adult Care and Financial Inclusion.
I'm Cheryl Jamieson, Quality and Performance Manager for Southwark Council.
I'm Andy Loxton, Commission Manager, Long-Term Conditions, Southwark Council.
So Gwen or Steph, I don't know which one of you wants to go first.
I'm happy to go first and just set the scene from a CCG point of view, just give brief headlines of what we're responsible for. So the Southwark CCG is responsible for commissioning continuing healthcare services for the population, and that includes end-of-life care and any fast-track applications for care. So when people become very unwell very, very quickly, we're responsible for picking that up and commissioning services. We have a contract with a provider to provide those services, and we, as part of that contract, are embracing, the London Living Wage and ensuring that there is transport costs included. So we've actually re-tendered on that basis for that contract to ensure that we are in line with the local authority and their commissioning. In the future, we will be, and we are working with the local authority to bring together commissioning around support programmes, and we are working very closely with the local authority in future re-tendering exercises. We hope to bring some synergy across those contracts together in the future as part of our joint working. So that's there. We also are responsible for commissioning what's called the Care Home Support Team, and this is a support team of nurses that go into care homes that help support care homes and look at quality of nursing care, quality of care in the homes, and undertake assessments, health assessments of residents in the homes, again working very closely as part of a multidisciplinary team. So again, that is helping to raise the quality and the standards in respect of the Charter. We've also more recently commissioned a contract working for GP services in care homes as well, and that is to again address a gap in variant quality of care across the borough, and that service again works with the local authority, with social workers, multidisciplinary teams, GPs, to provide that service in care homes, again in an attempt to try and look at quality, ensure that the needs of the residents are met, and there's some consistency across the care homes with regards to access. So again, that's been doing very, very close with the local authority. And we're also looking at integrating our services with the local authority around continuing care services, and looking at functions where we can bring much more synergy together, looking at where there are areas where we can integrate more fully as a basis. So we're fully on board with the Charter. We're fully on board working with the local authority. We also, another area where we're very, very fully alongside the local authority is around safeguarding in care homes as well, and we work very, very closely with the local authority in respect of any safeguarding investigations, ensuring that we are fully supporting the local authority with those where there are particularly health issues in respect of safeguarding. I'm happy to answer any questions, but that just gives you a flavour of what we're doing.
Can I just very quickly, one question of clarification? When you talk about the care home support teams, do you commission them on behalf of the owners of our care homes in Southwark, or who do you commission them on behalf of?
No, we commission, they're part of the Guys and St Thomas's contract, and we commission them as part of our community health services to ensure that we've got input into care homes in respect of assessments and of quality.
So they're independent from the care home providers?
Yes.
Okay. Well, sorry, Steph, do you want to?
Yeah, I was sort of, a lot of what I was saying Gwen has already said, but obviously we're working closely with CCG along with Joint Commission, the multidisciplinary team do seem to be working well, where there is that dedicated social worker in each of the care homes, so that residents and family have that regular conversation with them, and there's a familiarity around there as well. We do also have a comprehensive review of the workforce development there, working very closely with the staff to give, for ongoing training, to stop churning, because it's really hard to retain and keep good staff. So it's trying to retain those members of staff there and actually give them the training and skills they need around safeguarding, around looking after patients, around there as well. And we're doing that with Skills for Care, with the care homes themselves, with the Job Centre and through CCG as well, the Joint Commissioning. We've revised our safeguarding thresholds, and we're putting more emphasis on learning and skills development to help with that. And we're also looking at, we've got a revised monitoring approach focusing on the quality of care and the quality of life of the people in the homes. I mean, it is fair enough to say we have got problems with our care homes, some of our care homes at the moment. Tower Bridge, Burgess Park and Campbell Green have all had CQC reports recently, which haven't been very great reports, and we have put embargoes on that side. It's worthwhile saying, though, that our embargoes that we placed as a local authority were placed before the CQC reports. So we didn't do it in reaction to that. We'd already recognised that, so we had stopped placing people with them. The care homes are privately owned, so there is a sort of limited amount that you can do around that with private companies. And today it has been announced that sadly Campbell Green HC1 have decided they can no longer keep Campbell Green. They're going to be closing that because it doesn't support their business model. There's nothing really we can do about it because it is a private home. However, we've met with them, we've had a really good productive meeting, we've had reassurances that they're not going to enforce a 60-day notice of closure. What they are going to do is keep open until the last patient has been removed, however long that takes.
Are they in charge of rehousing, or are we working?
We are working with them. It will be at the wishes of the patients and their relatives. Around that, so looking at how we can best provide that support for them. So it is very much driven, but HC1 are very much on board working with us, and obviously with CCG, because CCG are patient people they've based in there as well, and obviously other boroughs as well, because it's not just, it's important to emphasise that our care homes aren't just for Southwark residents. They are, other boroughs do place there as well. So it's working across those local authorities as well. And we do. There are a couple of there are 4 private clients as well who need to be looked at, who are self-funding, who need to be looked at there. But HC1 have given us reassurances, and we're confident that they'll keep to those assurances, that they will not enforce the 60-day notice, that they will be working with us, because it is a very sort of sensitive issue around that. Families and relatives and the people the residents have been informed today of the meeting. We are on board with that. We've got social worker based there all the time, so they can help on that.
Okay. And did either of you want to touch on kind of home care or anything around that as well briefly? Scope, and then we can do it all at once.
Home care. Obviously, we've got the our home care contracts with the Southwark Care Charter. Our 2 main providers are My Home Care and London Care. From our 2 home care providers, we commission about 520,000 hours a year on that. And there's about 1,250 users supported at any one time by those 2 agencies on there. We also have another just over 420 users supported from their own personal budgets on their managed accounts, and 500 people actually use spot providers for home care. That's whereby they don't use our providers, they purchase their own, but we then pay for those spot provisions for them on that. We have also got extra care and overnight. We have our night owl service that provides night care for those people who need it, and they support a further around about 150 service users in that respect. We are actually re-tendering for our home care at the moment. We're hoping to go out to re-tender again at the end of this year, and hopefully in July have that tendering process up and running, because it was a 3-year tender with a 1-year extension. That's sort of, 1 extension was agreed in July, it runs out next July. So we are actively encouraging as many providers as possible, because we feel it's really important that we get as many providers as possible under the Southwark Care Charter, paying London Living Wage, paying for training, paying for transport as well. So it's really important for us. I met with some home care workers today actually, which was in the diary before this was brought forward, and I've met them previously. And what they're saying is that being paid London Living Wage, not having to work 0-hour contracts, is making a significant difference to them. The fact that they're not put into 15-minute slots for looking after people, it gives them a better pride in what they're doing. They feel more comfortable in what they're doing, which obviously has an impact on the people they're caring for. And they really are very, very dedicated, and they really, really do care for the people that they look after. They really are looking after their interests. So that has had a really positive impact on there. I mean, when I met them today, for example, they were saying, well, you know, we're not the important ones, it's the people we look after. And it was trying to emphasise that actually you're just as equally important, because you do a really great job, and it's quite right that you get paid a decent wage for doing it. So there's been some really powerful stories come out of that about the difference it is making to people in there. So hopefully we can, with the re-tendering process, we can try and encourage more providers on board to actually then, you know, to roll it out even further.
Maybe if I could just add, because I'm managing that process at the moment, that we're also talking to care workers and agencies and community organisations, and most importantly, people using those services. And I think people using those services recognise that the care workers have a really hard job. They really recognise this made a difference. And it feels like there's a real mobilisation of the community, people using services, people want to provide those services, trying to get this right. And I think it's a real flow at the moment, a commitment to make that.
And what we're doing as a committee is this meeting is kind of setting up the background to care in the community, and then our next meeting will have a much more open meeting, kind of roundtable, have some of those service users come in and talk about their experiences and what they think we should be doing as well. But at least this gives us a good grounding to take forward in that meeting. So I've got a list of people, and start with Paul.
Hello. I want to focus on the ethical care charter bit, and what's really heartening is to hear Councillor Cryan talking about how it's about emphasising to these people their dignity at work and their importance of the job that they do, and ensuring that they feel valued and listened to, and so on. I mean, I think the ethical care charter is absolutely fantastic, but it really is the base level of what these people should reasonably expect at work. I mean, we shouldn't kid ourselves that this is great. It's not great. It's just reasonable.
Improvement on what was before.
And so what I'm interested in is there a plan for a next stage for it? Is there a plan for how we develop it? And I think particularly in terms of allowing people to take control of their working lives and not merely rely on the benevolence of the council to enforce this with contractors, but ensuring that they have active voices, ensuring, for instance, trades union recognition in workplaces, ensuring that we're only contracting with people who have an active voice in their workplaces. What kind of processes have we put in place to allow them to have an input in the way the service develops? Do we have a centralised way in which people can come to the council? What's our whistleblowing like?
We do have a whistleblowing policy, actually. Yeah.
So I mean, how do we bring that into sort of ethical care charter Mark II? So.
I mean, that's one of the things that which actually you sort of preempted. One of the things that I want to look at as part of the re-tendering process is the right for trade union rights on there, because I think that really is important. And obviously, Unison have done such a good job in actually promoting the ethical care charter and the work they've done, you know, and so I think that trade union rights do need to be put in there. But we do have a whistleblowing process. There is a whistleblowing number. It's confidential. So any home care worker is able to feed back any issues they have, and they are taken very seriously, and they are investigating that. So is that confidentiality within that as well? But you're right, I think, you know, this is just the first step. We do need to look at how to develop it, and I think that's part of what we're looking at in the tendering process.
I think in terms of the procurement exercise, it's more than just setting some contracts up and getting another 3 years. This is a major transformational programme. It means how we as social workers talk to care workers needs to change. How we pay providers needs to be based on outcomes, not on times and tasks. That has implications on our IT. It's a whole training package here that we need to look at as well. So what good quality training, we've got some really good contacts now with GST and community. They're really excited by this. They're really excited by nurses working with home care workers and actually working as professionals. They're recognising the professionals. In fact, the session we're going to be running with colleagues from Age UK with care workers in a couple of weeks' time, we're actually going to ask them blatantly what needs to happen, what needs to change, the way you feel respected. And the work I've done so far, care workers work really hard, and they just want to be listened to. And I think we often hear voices where they try to talk to GP, try to talk to social worker, they're not listened to. So I think it's that recognising them as professionals. So I don't think it's necessarily just about new charters, it's about a real change in behaviour, change in attitude from the root to the branch, you know, right across the system. And I think there is a real appetite for that.
Yeah, there is. I mean, for example, today, you know, I was hearing about one of our home care workers saying that, you know, she works across several parts of the borough, and one of the people she cares for, the social worker, actually includes her in the meetings about that person's care. And that's something about the joined up approach between social work and the care workers, so that there's a seamless service for the actual service user as well. And I think we need to look more into that as well, about how we get home care workers involved in that process, because they are a very vital part of that person's life and should be involved in those conversations as well. So it's something that we can look at develop. You're right, this is just stage one, and I see it as an evolving thing. We haven't got there. It's not perfect. It's a lot better than it was. It's not perfect as it is, and it is something that needs to evolve as time goes on, and test and learn as well.
And also maybe on that point of trade union recognition, there was a report went to Cabinet Cabinet before last in terms of changing the gateway process and gateway zeros and procurement, about recognising the role of the trade unions as a valued partner. I think the role of Unison in particular by the Ethical Care Charter is very much recognised here. So we are talking to Unison in terms of how they see it being implemented on the ground as well. So I think this is actually a really major transformational programme here, more than just awarding contracts.
And all of that. I mean, that is really heartening to hear. And I mean, and I think particularly when you talk about involving healthcare home care assistants in looking at the care that's delivered to people. I mean, I know, having gone through looking after a very ill relative very recently, actually they probably understood more about the care and needs of that person than anybody else, family included. And the fact that they in the local authority where they are were not included in those sorts of decisions was mad, and actually cost money. I mean, it cost serious amounts of money, because the simple chronology of the day didn't always work, because their timetables were not consulted and didn't work with the physiotherapist. It was just a nightmare. So that's great to hear. But I mean, and obviously organisational change and cultural changes. There's no point in having pieces of paper if it's not a lived reality. I think, however, it's important to maybe have a stop point, a point in time where we say, well, this is where we have a next step. This is something which we are guaranteeing ourselves to. This is a new minimum floor for what we do. My supplementary is there appetite for, is there scope for an ethical care charter Mark II in 18 months, 2 years, 3 years time, that encompasses all the things that people who are working there want to see, things that service users want to see, and giving us that new platform. Because I'd be concerned if everything was not. I mean, I don't mean necessarily that it's all ethereal, but if everything's spread out over so many people, assessed by so many people, so many departments, it's very hard to put it together into something we can say as a council. This is what we do, and these are the standards we expect. I
think you're right, and I think Andy's sort of touched on the fact that it is a transformation, and actually a lot of what we're doing in adult care is quite transformational when we're looking to transform things. And I think we do have to look at the holistic picture and actually look at joined up. So it is working with CCG, it's working with local care networks to understand that individual and who's best placed to, so that everybody's in the loop and knows exactly what's going on. So there's no repetition or things are being missed out about that. So you're right, there is that appetite, and I think we need to grasp that appetite and actually work that into the charter going forward. Yeah.
And I think in terms of the logistics, what that means practically, in fact, we were at a meeting this morning talking about that in relation to the KPIs linked to the new contracts. There'll be KPI for year 1, KPI for year 2, and actually what we see is an continuous improvement in terms of the quality of care through the Ethical Care Charter. And I think there's excitement also amongst care workers, care home organisations, that actually a lot of them feel we really want to make a better difference and an improved job. And actually we're really excited by this. We're doing a lot of market engagement at the moment, and there is a lot of excitement in the system for it.
We've
so
also,
I think we need to review how those contracts
and
go.
As part of the review, what we've looked at as part of the extension for the last 12 months till July, one of the things we did take point is we reduced break clause, so that we got 3-month break clause rather than 6 months, so that if we felt there was a problem, it's easier to come out of that contract and secure another contract rather than waiting 6 months where it could be too long and serious risks could happen. So we've actually built that into it as well. So yeah, it is transformation, and it is an evolving thing, and it's great that we're doing it, but there is more we can do.
Jasmine?
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested in the service user and family perspective, really. I mean, dwelling on these reports from CQC, and I'm sure you have more than anyone in the room, but it's fairly basic stuff, isn't it? I mean, the stuff on dehydration, you know, one of the things that we rely on homes for is to make sure that people, you know, have their basic needs met, because in the hospitals, you know, the doctors were seeing that this was a problem, so they were having to prescribe water in order to stop people, you know, dehydrating. So obviously I'm not sure what I'm advocating, but I mean, the question that I would ask there is, we've got this major transformational programme, and it looks like, you know, I've spoken, you know, with Steph, the cabinet member, about this, and it sounds like it's going in the right direction. But what about the here and the now? Because you think about, my questions are, how many Southwark people are in these establishments, and who is monitoring these contracts from the council perspective? Because it's a bit much, you know, to be constantly told by CQC, you know, that these are failing. So, you know, what's the interim? Because I'm not sure, if we don't get that right, we can have transformation, you know, until the cows come home. But unless, you know, we've got the monitoring of these contracts right, then, you know, aren't we going to end up in the same situation? Because, you know, we're not going to get any more money, are we, for, you know, this client group, that's for sure. So if we're not, you know, thinking a bit smarter, the transformation, you know, won't work, in my opinion. So I'm just interested in that.
We have got 235 people across the homes, but that does include 235, but that does include the anchor homes as well. So it's across all 7. Amongst that, yes, I think obviously, as I said earlier, we put embargoes in place before the CQC report, so we were monitoring the homes at that time. We knew there were issues and problems. What I would say is, because of the issues they have been inundated. The homes have been inundated. People from council, social workers, CQC, CCG, you know, and there's been a lot of help and from public health, there's been a lot of help and support to help them get there. The homes themselves have got new managers. So, because if you read some of it did stem from the management issues. So, obviously, I went to Burgess Park a couple of weeks ago. They've got a brand new manager there, Joyce, who is really determined to turn things around. They understand, you know, things around the care plans. A lot of it hasn't been documented on care plans, so they're looking at that. So there has been a lot of help and support given to them on that as well. So yeah, and they had been under scrutiny from us around here.
Thank you. I mean, just one of the other things I wanted to say, which is probably obvious to you, but, you know, I'd like to be recorded as flagging this up, and that is, you know, CQC can tell us that this is happening on their spot checks, because, you know, a lot of people using these services think if they complain, you know, they'll end up not having any, you know, even a worse service than they're having already. So I'm just wondering, you know, what we're doing about engaging with people, and it's difficult because I've, you know, had experience of doing that before, because, you know, you think, well, actually, if I tell you about how I'm treated, I'll be, you know, laying in my urine for a fortnight. So, you know, I'm just wondering how, you know, we are communicating with the residents.
When the teams go out monitoring, one of the things we require them to do is actually have conversations with people in the home, and that includes staff of the home, residents and relatives also if they're around. So because we're in the home so regularly, actually we have quite a good relationship, and people do trust us, and they know if they tell us something, we're going to go away and we're going to do something about that. I frequently have people who ring me directly to tell me about issues, which we will then follow up on. Some people are concerned that if they erase something that it could result in repercussions, so what they'll often do is they'll ring us, and we go out and we'll just do a little check. It'll be sort of something we'll look at while we're there, and if we find something, then of course we can, you know, we can follow that up. So we have a variety of ways of talking to people, but I think the other thing is that the homes also have resident meetings. They have forums for people to have discussions. And I think, you know, our colleagues from CCG are in there regularly, social workers are in there regularly. So there's lots of opportunity for people to raise issues, and they do. I think, you know, we're not waiting on CQC to find stuff. We frequently know about and are working with the homes on those issues. We work extremely closely with CQC, so we'll always advise them if we consider there is a problem, and we work hand in glove together, I think. So I think there are lots of ways people talk, but I don't think we've got it covered yet. There's more we can do. So we're reviewing how we're doing various things at the moment. But as I say, every visit, the staff will go and talk to people. We also find staff will pull us aside because actually people don't work in that industry for the money. They work because they care about people. So they'll pull us aside and quietly say, oh, by the way, there seems to be an issue. And then we can find it and do what we need to do.
I'd like to add to that as well, that the stronger multidisciplinary team working in these homes as well has enabled more clinicians to be present for longer in the homes, to actually observe more of the care that's actually being given in the home, and actually addressing some of those clinical issues. So the nurses that go into the home, the GPs that go into the home, they are themselves picking up concerns and expressing concerns and sharing those concerns, and we are then acting and sharing that information. And again, we have very, very close links with the CQC, so we're frequently alerting the CQC where there may well be areas for them to be looking at. So that enhanced presence, I think, is also raising the quality of detection in the home.
So can I just ask, there seems to be, we're employing private firms to run our care homes, but there seems to having to be intervention from the CQC, the council, the CCG, other external bodies. Is this not a huge waste of money somewhere down the line that all these other organisations are having to be constantly checking up on these care homes for us to be able to be providing what is still seen as an inadequate service? What should we not be thinking about better ways that we can put things in place?
We are. We're actually looking at a strategy which we'll be presenting hopefully in the spring for the next 10 years. So we are looking at that, and it's looking at thinking about residential care, but also extra care, because extra care, we're looking at extra care facilities, and we've got the new United Saviour Downs houses that are coming on Southwark Park Road, which will provide extra care. The Centre of Excellence at Cater Street, which is going to provide extra care, and also as part of a regeneration, there's a real good opportunity to provide homes for people so they can stay in their homes as well. So we're looking at regeneration opportunities as well around that. So we are formulating a strategy which we should be ready to go to spring, to try and help people, have people choices, give people more choices. It doesn't always have to be residential care, it could be extra care.
I think also we're talking about home care, but actually that's
the night owls as
well.
For
example, we've developed the night owl service, which is a mobile team of care workers go on duty at 10 o'clock at night, come off at 7, working with people coming out of hospital who traditionally would have gone to nursing care. And this cohort of people actually have nursing care needs. And GST have developed just about to pilot a overnight nursing care team as well through mental life care. And so I think the whole system is responding. It's not just about bricks and mortar care, it's about people going home, people dying in their homes,
and it is about trying to keep people in their homes, because we know people would rather stay in their own homes, and it's trying to provide that support so that it allows them to do that with dignity as well.
Bill, did you have?
Yeah, I just want to go back a couple of steps and go back to the ethical charter that Paul raised. Underpinning all of that, for me, as a registered practicing social worker, is stuff around continuous professional development and the reinvesting in your workforce and the training. And if there is any room to have KPIs attached to that for providers coming on board. And so we evaluate the training that they're being sent on. We see how effective that training is in those situations, whether that's care home based or home based or hospital based. And then what is the quality of the training that they're getting in the first place? And then on top of that, does that training allow for progression to stop the churn that Steph, you mentioned right at the beginning of your speech? So you're reinvesting all the time in the workforce. So could we attach KPIs to that? Because I think that's really important. And as a qualified social worker, terms and conditions are important, union recognition is important, but so is investment in your own skills and being able to apply that knowledge.
Yeah, again, it's something that came up from my conversation with home care workers today, is the fact that they would like more training, and they are open to more training. And it's, a lot of the training that home care workers are looking at are things about new technology and, sort of different ways of working with people. And they do take that on board, and there is a sense that there could be some career progression there. So there is the appetite for it. So again, yes, it's something we can.
And I think there is too much reliance across the sector on e-based training.
Which is another thing as well.
Everyone recognises that. And I think some of the things we're looking at in terms of the home care work we're doing at the moment is about how do we make this an attractive profession to people go into, how it's a gateway profession to nursing, social work, etc. That actually Southwark, there's some evidence already from providers that people are coming into Southwark because of the Ethical Care Charter from other boroughs, and organisations that aren't paying Ethical Care Charter are abiding by it, but losing staff to both are at the moment. So that's a positive trend. But I think we need to build on that, and I think, again, in relation to the home care work we're doing, it's not just about deploying contracts, it's about a transformational change. So we're looking at a marketing strategy in terms of how we're looking at sort of apprenticeships and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, it's big.
Yeah.
It's big
It's
stuff.
massive, yeah.
Brilliant, thank you.
David.
Thank you, Chair. I've got one's a comment, I suppose, in regards to the 3 particular care homes that keep coming up again and again, Tower Bridge, Camberwell Green and Burgess Park. My concern, I guess, is that I've seen the providers of these homes changed, but you know, going back to when we were in control of the council, these are the same care homes that come up time and time again, and I'd be interested to know what you think, what the issue there is, because it does seem that there's I don't know, institutional problem at those particular homes. I'm not quite sure why they keep coming up again and again, and about, you know, compared to the other. I mean, it's very, very hardly ever anchor homes. It's always these particular other providers who seem to come up. And then I've just got 2 quick questions on home care. One is, Stephanie will be familiar with this issue. Can you confirm, because I think I didn't quite manage to follow all the emails. We obviously got the 2 home care providers. Yes. But are other home care providers also paid the London Living Wage or not? And my second question is, quite some time ago, maybe 18 months, certainly I think probably under Dora, there was talk about extending the lay inspector scheme to home care. And as far as I know, that doesn't seem to have progressed at all. I just wondered, is that still the intention to progress that, or is that not being followed up?
If we just start with lay inspector, because Rochelle was talking about that today, actually. So.
Yes. The council isn't currently sponsoring a lay inspection scheme for home care because Age UK actually got funding to do that themselves. So we have been working very closely with them throughout the life of the project, and I'm sure they'll talk a bit more about that. So there is actually it's called a quality checker program for home care within Southwark, which is, I think, it's pulled a lot of stuff out. It's got some, they will share with us themes from their discussions with people. It's very holistic. I won't sort of go on about too much, but just say there is one.
Okay, thank you.
I've got a list.
I could answer the 2 of the questions better than anybody, what David said and what Paul said. I didn't take a second. Over 8 years ago, when we first started, I can tell you that with the Tower Bridge, it was a different opinion every 2 years, depending on the manager. So honestly, I was the first one to say, the first time we went there, put a bomb on it and we'd start again. 2 years later, it was brilliant. Then it went back again. I could tell you there's 4 different reports because of different managers. So that's the answer to that one. It's not a simple one. And when you're talking about, and I support the council on this, when you're talking about care in the home, about a year ago, there was a vulnerable person and I gave a safeguarding at Peckham Park Road. They were on it within days. This was with London Care. I attended this meeting with them. They were found guilty, and I attended this meeting with the safeguarding officials, and they were given, and the manager had to appear, and she was told in uncertain terms that she had to go on management training, which was organised by Southwark Council. So I'll actually have to support that there are some times when they do it right.
Thanks, Tom. Sorry, David. Do you want to go back to your
question
or answer whichever side you
if I did the one you said about spot care providers, because I know we were in that email conversation, that particular spot care provider does get paid enough to be able to pay the London Living Wage and travel. The thing with spot care is because people want to choose their own providers, we pay that. How that provider then pays that to their care workers, unfortunately, is outside of our remit in that respect. But we do pay that provider enough to be able to do it. There's what they take off in their sort of overheads.
Why doesn't our ethical care charter, surely anyone whoever they choose to...
We took, I think, Cabinet, my predecessor and Cabinet, before I was in Cabinet, took the decision to actually to start off with it with our contracted care workers. It is something we do want to build in. We're trying to encourage as many care providers to actually tender for this time round, so that we could get more sort of within that net there. But the decision was taken at Cabinet that we would start with our contracted, and we did put it out to tender, and a lot of home care providers did did tender, but didn't meet the sort of the criteria in that respect. But we do in that particular one. I'm quite happy to talk to you about it as well. We don't pay them enough to be able to do that one. As far as the
just very, is there a timescale then on when we would hope to make all providers who's providing care?
I mean, that would be part of the procurement exercise.
So
we're just in the process of establishing the extent of 2P across those spot provision. And I think the spot is a very mixed bag within that. So there's some spot provision that's with the very, very specialist needs that people have that actually probably language speakers from a very specific dialect or that sort of thing, where you may actually need to have a very specialist provision. And the terms and conditions sort of, there's quite a mixed bag within that, but they're all coming within that threshold of the ethical care charter and the procurement exercise. So we're talking about probably another 100 plus staff potentially across the system, and also children's home care as well. That's paid the ethical care charter at the moment in terms of our main contracted providers, but they'll be coming to the procurement exercise and covered by the full care charter.
Great. Is that all of you? No, it was the one about the issues with the home care. What we
just these recurring homes.
I'd love you to have that next meeting when they're here as well. But yeah.
I think one of the issues is with nursing home is the nursing part of it. Often the issues that we come across in homes are clinical, and it's very difficult to find the quality of nurses and attract them to work in a care home when we have two big acutes that they'd rather work in, and then the second option is to work in community, and then the third option, if they must, is to work in home. So that's part of the work around the workforce development group, is to try and raise the profile of that as actually a legitimate and valued career choice, because at the moment, consistently throughout the time I've been here, attracting the quality and calibre of nurses to work in homes has been a constant challenge. I think Tom's point about management is absolutely critical. We're almost at the point we hear about a change of manager, you want to almost slap an immediate embargo on. Actually, that's a really important part of a home, is to have the right leadership that brings it all together. I think in terms of Camberwell Green, actually the fabric of the building doesn't really support good quality care. I don't know if you've been there, but it's very oddly shaped. And actually you'd need about 600 staff, I think, to make it look like it's staffed properly and to actually provide the level of care that both the provider and us expect. So I think there's some physical difficulties in that particular building, which are not quite so prevalent in the others. But those are some of the facts I think that people really struggle with.
Maria? Maria?
Yes, thank you. Actually, a lot of my questions have been now answered through either questions that the councillors have asked or things that you have said. And I hear very carefully what you have said, and I understand that you are putting provisions and you make measurements to make things better, and I appreciate that. But still, I'm concerned because a year ago, when I joined, when I was elected a councillor, I went in to visit all the care homes, and I found that the service, the caring was appalling. And I mentioned already to you when we met in, I think it was August. And since then, it was the Tower Bridge home that was labeled inadequate. And then we had a long chat, and we said that, there were measurements put into it, and it's almost for sure that nothing will happen within another care home, within a month in another care home, which is the Burgess Park. So, and when I had been to see these homes, I was appalled the service and the level of care that was given to those people. And it continues to happen exactly the same thing now. And after they promised me that it was going to be implemented, they were going to implement some things to make it happen and to make it changes. And now it's exactly the same thing.
I think you're right. It isn't acceptable what's been happening there and the level of care, and obviously the CQC reports actually highlight that. However, I mean, obviously, as I said, we were aware that we've been working really closely since the reports and the embargoes with homes. I know Tower Bridge will have another CQC report. We're hoping that will be a lot better because we have been doing a lot of work with them. The same with Burgess Park. I went to visit Burgess Park a couple of weeks ago, and it was encouraging to see there have been some changes, and it seemed a lot better than before. It's not where it should be, and we still need to make sure we're happy.
Is that Tower Bridge?
No, this is Burgess Park.
Oh, Burgess Park.
Yeah. What we would like to see is, even if it gets when CQC go back in and they rate it, we still want to see some evidence of sustainability before we think about lifting embargoes anyway on there. So so we need to see that sustainability, because what we can't allow it to do is be like a roller coaster that it goes up and down and up and down. So in that respect, there has to be that level. It has to plateau out.
It has to be the same level of care constantly.
Exactly, that's right. So yeah, but I think some of the problems Rochelle has mentioned, it is really hard to get by the nursing staff, because when you've got two big teaching hospitals, we're picked for nursing, it isn't as attractive, and that is a problem. That is one of the reasons that HC1 have cited, that's one of the reasons they cited for having to close Camberwell Green, is because they cannot attract good quality staff because of that. And you think you've got Camberwell Green, you've got Kings on their doorstep. It's it really is hard of where we're placed.
But now what is going to happen with one home closing very shortly?
Well, it won't, as I said, we've been reassured it will not close until the last patient has been placed. So
yes, but nevertheless, it will be one home less.
It will be. What we're looking at is we're working with families and friends. For example, we've got one family who actually, they live in Surrey Quays, but actually because there aren't any care homes in Surrey Quays, have actually wanted to be placed just over the river, because it's easier for them to get to visit their relative there. So it's working around. We do have people who want to be moved nearer to residents. It's looking at whether we can place them there, because around that. So they may not necessarily want to be placed in a borough, but we do need to be, you're right, we do need to look very carefully at how we work to get the embargoes lifted on the other two homes to be able to support people who want to stay in the borough. We also, as part of our strategy, we're looking at how we can work with things like extra care, and looking at, whether there's capacity in some of the buildings that we own. For example, the Anchor homes, we own the buildings, we lease them to Anchor, they are under capacity. Do we then look at maybe bringing the nurse care home provision into part of that as well? So there is a strategy we're looking at around that to see how we can best place it. It's not going to be a quick fix, and I think to be honest, learning from lessons that happened in the past, we need to get it right. So we need to take our time to get it right. So but in the meantime, it's also being sensitive to the fact that we have got people here now we need to look to place. But I don't think we can rush into a fix on this, because we can't get it wrong next time. So whatever our strategy is, it has to be the right strategy, and it has to prove that it's the right thing for the next 10 years going forward.
But the embargo goes as far as January next year. Am I correct? In the one at Tower Bridge.
The embargo will be lifted once the quality improves.
Yeah.
So there's not a specific date. I mean, Helen will probably talk to her more this when she speaks to you. But the special measures, obviously, they have a time limit within which they go back to re-inspect. So that's part of that process. But from our perspective, we will lift the embargo when we're satisfied the quality is the level it needs to be.
And that's very important.
Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for coming along. We're going to take a very short break because we need to reboot the camera, and also so that we can have a quick break ourselves. I would say what would be really useful is, after the CQC and NAVIS have spoken, if we can have a quick